So I'm an absolute dog lover. I've always had dogs. I foster dogs myself. But if you have a dog, you probably know the damage that they can cause to a landscape. So I guess the question here is, can we have both a beautiful landscape and also have a dog that enjoys the landscape? And can we just coexist and both enjoy the space? So today I just wanted to make this video of dog-friendly landscaping tips that you can try at home. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Amy, and over at Pretty Purple Door, I help home gardeners design landscapes that are uniquely you. I currently have one dog. Her name is Siggy. I've also had two other dogs in my adult life, my Roxy Ann and my Sally, both rest in peace. Throughout the years, we've also been fostering quite a few dogs. So I have a unique experience where I not only have my own pets, but I have friends coming into my yard. And I also have dogs that are completely untrained, may have never even been in a house in their entire life, and trying to acquaint them to my landscape and make sure that it survives so that I could show you guys beautiful pictures of it, while also making sure that they're safe and that they can enjoy the space as well. So I just wanted to go over a lot of these tips that I have. So let's get right into it. Planning your landscape really starts with determining the type of personality that your dog has. The three types that I find are most common with the foster dogs that come into our house are the patroller, the digger, and the chewer. And oftentimes, even with my own personal adopted dogs, you have all three of these combined in one, and aren't we the lucky ones when that happens? So before you start planting, it's important to note those traits and behaviors. Different breeds have different instincts, and no two dogs are the same. So is your dog a patroller who is constantly circling the yard and trying to protect the property and your family? Is your dog a digger, constantly burying toys or digging holes that you're twisting your ankle in? Does he like to chew, or typically do they leave your plants alone? And if you don't have a dog yet, you have to kind of just accommodate all of these things because they all may happen. That's sort of the situation that we're in with fostering, where we have to make sure that no matter what type of dog comes into the yard, that they're safe and they have the space that they need. So I'm going to be sharing tips for each of these three personality types, and I'm also going to share tons of tips that are just universal dog friendly tips at the end of this video. So the first thing I recommend is just landscaping around your dog's personality type. Start by writing down some of the most common traits that your dog has, because let's face it, your dog isn't really going to change his instinctual behaviors. You can train them to an extent, but there are instincts that are bred into different dogs. You need to plan your landscaping around the expected. Just because you want a pretty yard doesn't mean that your Doberman is going to stop patrolling for burglars. So dogs will also investigate noises. Think about the areas that are close to walkways, doors, gates, driveways that your dog is gravitating towards when they hear a noise. I know for my dog, it's like the back far corner of the yard where there's a stray cat that kind of runs by at night, and then the fence, she's always looking for the mailman. So there's certain areas where she's always sort of constantly going back and forth to, and those are areas that I have to kind of keep open because she's just going to trample whatever I plant there. And the key takeaway is that as long as we know what our dog likes to do, we can incorporate him or her into our new landscape rather than stressing him out with the changes that affect all the fun that he has in his yard. This seems like common sense to sort of plan around your dog and make your dog part of the process, but I've seen the opposite so many times. So I briefly went over the main personality types of dogs: the patroller, the digger, and the chewer. Maybe your dog is one or all of these personality types. I currently have one that is all three. So let's go over some strategies for each of these. If your dog patrols the yard as a patroller, especially if your yard is fenced, you need to plan around it. And here are just some basic tips for that. I try to keep high traffic areas and patrolling zones open with no landscape at all. If it's a path that your dog patrols, leave about 18 inches of space. If it's where he barks at your neighbor's dog or waits when your son pulls into the driveway, create an open area and landscape around that space rather than where your dog will be. A great example of this is in my own property. I have a row of emerald green arborvitae trees for privacy. My dog likes to poke her head in and out of the arborvitae, and then she runs like back and forth along the arborvitae. So what I've done is I've just left a path there. So there's about 18 inches before I planted hydrangeas and other plants in my cottage garden, so that she has space to do that running and sprinting back and forth without actually messing up any of my plants. And as the plants grow in, they kind of hide that path anyway, so you can't really see it from where I sit on the porch, and it's kind of a win-win. So you can use your landscaping to hide or enhance these areas, like wooden decks or brick paver walkways are a more permanent and low maintenance solution. If you don't want to go that route, you can mulch the area. Large bark mulches tend to hold up better to foot traffic. You can also try stone mulch, such as a pea gravel, but just stay away from anything with sharp edges that can hurt your dog's feet. Mulch is a great solution, but it's less permanent, so you'll have to replace it year after year. Just stay away from cocoa mulch. The smell may be great, but if your dog eats it, it can cause the same bad reactions as if they ate chocolate. Another idea to help with patrolling dogs is to plant tall foliage that will grow above the dog. Anything like a small tree, multi-stem shrub, a vase-shaped shrub that kind of doesn't take up a lot of space on the ground, and then the foliage goes up over the dog is a good option. Tough evergreen shrubs are also an excellent choice if you need a year-round screen. Containers or raised bed planter boxes are also a great option if you want to plant more colorful and delicate flowers. If you put them in the raised bed and they kind of go above where your dog's head is, that's also a great option. So those are great options for the patroller, and now we have the digger. Isn't this the funniest photo? I just love it. So the best option for diggers is fencing options that can keep your dog out or inside of an area. You can add a low or a high fence around an area you don't want your dog to dig in. This is a really good solution, especially for a vegetable garden or something like that. You can actually fence in your vegetable garden so that your dog stays out, or create a fenced-in area for your dog so that they're not digging up your vegetables. Just any kind of separation that you can create will really do wonders. You can also try these linked garden stakes that are in the photo right here. There's rounded garden staples, or I've even tried hardware cloth to deter your dog from digging. This worked for my dog Sally really well. She was the ultimate digger. She was digging holes everywhere in my landscape. So what I would do is if she started to dig, I'd cut a small piece of hardware cloth and then I'd bury it in the dirt. And the next time she went to dig there, her nails would hit the hardware cloth and then she would just become disinterested in that spot. It didn't work in 100% of the situations, but it definitely did deter her from digging the spot that was right in front of our patio, or I would always step and twist my ankle. If your dog loves to dig, another solution might be to redirect them to their own digging area. I'd suggest a sandbox because sand doesn't get muddy, it dries quickly, it shakes off easier. If you have a lot of stray cats in your neighborhood though, this might be also problematic. Put the sandbox in the area where the dog is already digging. You can always landscape around it with some rocks or some really tough plants. My other suggestion is just not to garden around your dog if they're a digger. Like I said, my dog Sally was such a digger. When I was gardening, she was always dutifully following me around the garden, digging behind me as I was digging, pulling weeds, planting her own gems next to me. She used to take socks from inside the house and just plant them next to me. I used to think it was so cute, and it really was. I miss her terribly. But I found that after those sessions where I was gardening and actually doing some serious digging, her digging throughout the yard would always get worse. So after a while, I started to keep her inside when I was doing any kind of major digging or planting, just to keep her from inspecting all of the areas and trying to dig her own hole and help me. As much as it was cute, it was really, really destructive. So next up is the chewer, and this can be a really, really dangerous one. I have a chewer right now. Many plants are toxic and can create health problems for your dog, so I really do think that this is the toughest one to handle. My dog Siggy tastes everything. I know there's already people with their fingers on the keys typing a comment that dogs are smart and they're not going to eat toxic plants, and you can plant anything and they just know to stay away from it. And I really, really, really wish this were true. If you have a dog like this, you are super lucky, because I've had 3 or 4 fosters that just put every single thing in their mouth, and my dog Siggy is the same way. She tastes absolutely everything. So it's just really bad advice, because if somebody's dealing with a problem like I've had in the past where their dogs are chewing on things, the last thing that you want is to tell that person to plant something toxic. The ASPCA is a great resource. They have an extensive list of toxic plants for dogs and non-toxic plants. I think they also have one for cats and for horses as well. but every plant is sort of different. So you have to do your own research on the level of toxicity of a plant. And then the other caveat to this is that even if a plant is not toxic to your dog, if your dog eats it, they can still get an upset stomach and things like that. It doesn't mean that your dog won't get sick just because the plant is on the non-toxic list. It just means that it's not going to hurt them long term. I do have another video that's coming out about this, so I'm going to leave a link to that in the description below so you can check that one out too, with some really great options for cottage gardens. So if you're liking this video, you're going to love my free Master the Mixed Border Guide and checklist. I have this really simple 8-step layering process, a checklist so that you don't miss anything, and a printable planting pyramid. This is all for free. I'm going to leave a link in the description if you want to grab that. It's one of the most popular items on my website right now, so I just wanted to mention that in case you're looking for more tips and tricks for planting. So now that we know a little bit more about how to handle these different personality types, I just wanted to give some tips and tricks and some awesome ideas for landscaping when you have a dog. So my first tip here is to just give your dog his own space where he can be a dog. Like, we love our dogs. We shouldn't have to yell at them every time that they're in our yard. There are ways to happily coexist, and this honestly begins with taking your dog's needs into consideration when you're creating your backyard oasis. Dogs are animals. They need space. They need space to roam. They need space to run, and they need space to play. So embrace some open areas for your dog to be a dog. Just an open lawn space is a great option. That's what I do. And my dogs also actually have all loved exploring along the paths and running in and out of the garden beds through the paths. Another great idea here is to give them access to fresh water. I have a picture here of a really cool watering station, a shallow pool, and contained water features and fountains are also a really cool option. There's this really cool item you can get on Amazon. I haven't personally tried it, but it looks great. It's called the Cool Pup Faucet Water. It attaches to any outdoor faucet, and the water is activated when the dog licks the lever there on the edge of it. And once they stop licking, the water shuts off. So this might be a really cool option. I don't think I would leave it on if I wasn't home, but it may be really cool to train your dog to get their own drink of water so they always have fresh water. This is another great idea, a potty area, creating a potty space to stop your dog from going to the bathroom all over the yard. I know that's one of the problems that I have, and just destroying your lawn in the process. So here are two really cool examples. I actually like the one on the right very much, where it's just integrated along the fence and it has really good drainage there. So you can actually Google and just like how to make a dog potty area, and I've found articles that give you like all different tips and tricks for creating the proper drainage and how to rinse it out and things like that. So really cool idea. I love the idea of a potty area. The next is just agility and incorporating those really cool agility features into your landscape. I think this would be really, really fun to do with any dog. And they sell them pretty readily on Amazon and Chewy and places like that now. I've seen this a lot, cutouts for the fence so that your dog can interact with the neighbors. Obviously, if your dog is barking at your neighbors, this isn't a great option. But when I was at the Cooper Young Garden Walk in Memphis, Tennessee, I saw that some of the houses actually had cutouts with little picture frames so the dogs could peek in and see each other. I thought it was just a really cute thing to add to your landscape that also can give your dog a little view of the outside of their fence. Raised beds are always a great option to keep your dog from digging. Like I said, Sally was a big digger, so raised beds were my best friend when I was growing any kind of vegetables. But you could also plant flowers and perennials and things into these raised beds as well. When doing research for this video, I found all different examples of what they were calling sensory gardens, and they're designed to stimulate your dog through all 5 senses: smell, sight, sound, taste, and touch. So when you're considering your design, you can try to make sure you have something in the garden for each of the senses. In this photo here, it's from 2013. The Bath Cats and Dogs Home built an innovative sensory and enrichment garden, which it says featured 27 different textured surfaces and several medicinal plants for dogs to self-select. So I thought this was a really cool option. I know the picture's a little blurry, but it's the best one I could find for that. But just thinking about all the different senses that your dog has and trying to incorporate them into your landscape sounds like a really fun idea to me. Another idea is to create different viewpoints for your dog, like railway sleepers, steps, benches, logs. All of these make really cool garden features, but they're also natural vantage points for your dog to enjoy the view. Boulders for natural climbing or logs for jumping, things like this could really work well in a naturalistic or a cottage style garden where it doesn't necessarily look like it's just for the dog. Like you could enjoy this too, but it also gives the dog a place to play. Another idea is just a cozy place to relax in the shade. If you have kind of a lazy bum of a dog, you can put a dog bed outside or just grow a tree so that they have some shade. And another thing to do is just to add some paths into your landscape. When I was redesigning my own backyard, I was really nervous about reducing the size of the lawn to add more garden beds because I wanted the dog to still have space to run around and actually play and exercise. And I found that when I shrunk the lawn and created these paths that weave in and out of my landscaping, I was able to actually create a better environment for my dog. So she runs in and out of the paths. The only thing I had to do was there were certain spaces where she would kind of take off the back porch and go to that corner to see the stray cat, and she was trampling all the plants there. So what I did was just remove the plants from that area, and I just created like a little mulch path so that she could run through it. So you kind of have to accommodate where they're going to go naturally, but paths have been really great. Even my cats go outside and they walk along the brick edging, or they walk down like the little cobblestone path I have in my backyard, and it's just so funny to see that they're actually using the paths in the yard. I think another great idea is ornamental grasses, soft, sturdy foliage, something that the dogs can run into, brush up against, or even chew on a little bit, as long as it's non-toxic. So you could see in this photo here, not only are those grasses really nice for the dog to brush by, but the ground looks really soft too. It's got a mulch of some kind that's really soft on their paws. So I'd love to know what your best dog-friendly landscaping tips are and what's actually worked for you. So definitely drop a comment below so we can all learn from each other and get some more ideas of what we can do to accommodate our dogs while still having the dream garden that we want. If you've enjoyed this video, you're gonna love my video about non-toxic dog-friendly plants for cottage gardens. I have a huge list of annuals and perennials that are all safe for dogs, and I'll leave a link to that video right here so you can check that out as soon as it's available. And I'll see you over in that next video.